Hi guys, and welcome to this week's deload stream. I hope you're all well. I hope the Game Week 5 went very well for you all. I'm seeing we've got a few people in the chat already. I think, William, not sure if you're asking me if I've hit the wildcard button already, but I haven't at the moment. There's a little kind of taster morsel for you there. So last week we had a guest with FPL Focus, but this week we have Lewis back with us. So I'll get him in and we can have a little bit of a discuss about what happened in Game Week 5 and looking ahead to Game Week 6. I'll also let him have a little talk about his Game Week 5 team as well, because he wasn't here to get all the glory for that, really. So let's do that. Let's get Lewis in now and see how he's doing. So, hey, Lewis, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm really good, actually. I'm a little bit ill this week, but I think
Oh, no.
hopefully it's wearing off a little bit now.
Yeah.
But other than that, not good either in terms of FPL, but we'll get on to that.
Yeah, it's definitely been one of those game weeks. We've got Jeffers in the chat. Hey, Jeffers, and One Rose Vlog as well. Hi, guys. Mig's in the chat. Hope you're all good. Hope you're good. So we'll just have a quick mull over the kings of the game week first, Lewis, before we head on to your team and then get chatting forward on to game week 6. So bit of a mixed bag, as always, with the kings of the game week. And starting off with De Gea and his 10 points. Didn't see that one come in. I think it was a lucky save. What do you think? Did you see it?
Yeah, I just thought the whole situation was a bit strange.
It was very odd, wasn't it?
I just think bringing on a player who's not played just to take a penalty. I mean, he's got a great record, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have just let someone on the pitch take it, to be honest. But hey, De Gea made a good save, and it's a good return for anyone that's actually hunted on De Gea, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Focus had him, actually, if I remember correctly. I'm sure if he joins us in the chat, he'll be able to tell us that. But yeah, I think, I mean, what percentage owned is he? Let's have a look. Come on now, 5.8% owned. I mean,
wow.
You know, if you were lucky enough to have him, then fair play. But I do kind of feel like, just from listening to how he was talking after the match, I don't think he really knew who was taking the penalties. So in terms of what he had in his head for what he was going to do for the save, I think he just had a bit of luck and went the right way, really.
Yeah, but, definitely.
But yeah, okay, so moving on to the defenders then, and Cash there went absolutely ballistic. He definitely cashed in on the points this game week, didn't he? Hey,
you've planned that line for ages, haven't you?
I did have that in my head for a while. Yeah, so he just was so good. How he just only got the one goal, I'll never know, because he just looked as if every time he did something, he was going to score or assist a goal. He was just epic.
It was great. One whiz past the post, I think, on his left foot as well.
I know.
He's getting close, yeah. What game he had.
I know, and even less owned than De Gea at 1.7% owned, 15 points. I mean, you cannot moan at that if you are one of those 1.7% owned. Yeah, fair dues. And then, Lewis, you're the Chelsea guy. I mean, you must have just been over the moon with your Chelsea defenders this week. I mean, Thiago with 15 points, Rudiger 14 points, Alonso 10 points. I mean, do you need Lukaku in your team? Seriously?
I don't think so. I think we should stick a centre-back at the front, to be honest. But yeah, no, I think in terms of the kings of the game week, I think we'll see a lot of Chelsea players at the back week in, week out, and that's just not me being biased, but I just think the way we play, we allow centre-backs to actually get forward. And obviously Alonso is basically, like you said, a second striker. So you know, he's flying at the moment, but it's only a matter of time, surely.
Well, you keep saying this to me. I keep going, are you sure? Because I'm really looking at Alonso like, I want you in my team. And then Lewis says, no, but he'll get dropped at some point for Chilwell. I'm like, at this rate, they'll be playing in midfield. Like, how can you drop this guy? He is so good at the moment.
I just want to say,
seriously.
In terms of the Alonso and Chilwell, I'm really shocked, and I'm starting to get a little bit confused myself, even as a Chelsea fan. Okay, I've seen Chilwell in games, and when he came on, it hasn't looked sharp. I think you need match fitness to get your sharpness back and not just train, if that makes sense. So okay, it's worked with Alonso on, so why change it? But I mean, even Alonso's getting on a bit now. He's going to need some rotation too.
But this could be his season. This could be it. His full
I think
season.
I think it'll be his last season. But, at Chelsea, to be honest, I think he's got a lot of cover. He's got Rudiger to cover him. So although an attacking opponent's team would look at that space and think he's so easy to attack the space behind, you've got Rudiger, who's probably the fastest centre-back in the league, covering that space as well. And you don't want to be targeting Rudiger. You want to be sort of looking elsewhere. But it's a really tough one. And even I had a thought this week, and I thought, maybe Alonso keeps that spot, but I just don't think he will. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a bummer. I was really hoping you'd say that he was going to keep his spot and I could get him in, and happy days.
I mean, he's worth a punt. For me, he's worth a punt because he's an easy swap to another Chelsea defender. True. If he could, I don't even know how long. I don't know how long he's going to last. He could play another 2-3 games, and I'm sat here in 2-3 weeks' time saying he's going to come off soon for Chilwell.
I mean, Chilwell could play in your other competitions, I guess, couldn't he, really? Just keep Alonso ticking along in the Premier League.
For sure. So, yeah, I just think it's a little bit strange that Chilwell's not come on yet, and I think it's only a matter of time. But luckily, we've got other players, other defenders performing to good levels as well, in terms of FPL as well.
Cool. And then just to round it off, Van Dijk there with his 12 points. A little frustrating, this one, as a Trent owner. You're a Trent owner there, Lewis, so bless him with his Dicky tummy. We obviously didn't have him playing this week. I do feel like if he had been playing, he would have absolutely romped in that particular match. So it is quite frustrating to have been an owner and not have him on the pitch. But you know what? They're human at the end of the day. We're human at the end of the day. These things happen.
Exactly.
I think we've already had Klopp saying that whilst he may not make midweek, he should be back for the weekend. Trent, I'm talking about here. So, that's good news. But, in the meantime, Van Dijk, or Van Dijk as my mother calls him, is
didn't expect you to come out with that.
doing quite well with his 7-6, 6 and 12 with just a 2 against Chelsea at 6.5 million. 15.8% of FPL managers own him, so a few more than I thought there, to be honest. Maybe a few more after this game week has probably gone up a little bit already. With people going, ooh, Van Dijk, and then getting him in. So
he always seems more of a Sky asset, a Sky fantasy asset. I know you play that as well. We won't talk about it.
Well, this is my first season, and
same with me as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So around 1,100 and something, I think I am. I've no idea in Sky terms whether that's any good. Is that any good?
I think so. From what I've heard.
Brilliant.
Yeah, from what I've heard, I think top 1K is really good. It's good.
I was more surprised by my fan team sat at 85th at the end of last game week. I was like, holy shimoly, how is that doing? I think it slipped back down to around 1,000s because I captained Ronaldo over Salah. So, most people would have captained Salah. But, Ronaldo didn't let me down. He still got a goal. So,
I don't think we're far off, actually, on fantasy on Sky, which is interesting.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
We'll not compare FPL.
No. Okay, fair enough.
Won't do that.
For the moment. I'm pretty sure at some point during the season you'll be like, let's do that. But at the moment,
maybe.
At the moment we'll leave it. Okay, guys, don't forget to get your questions in the chat because obviously we will get around to those as well. So moving on to the midfield, Salah coming out for all those people who got on him and have stuck out on him. 15 points for 2 goals. Obviously, if you got him in on your wildcard around game week 4, then you'd probably have been a bit disappointed against Wolves, but he definitely paid you back against Norwich. But if you've been on since game week 1 after his 1 goal scored, then you've been very patient to wait all this time to get those 2 goals against Norwich. Now, my little concern about this is I do feel like everyone's going to flood towards Salah. And just based on what I've seen so far, whilst Salah looks great and is an incredible price point, I can't help but think about, well, it was Norwich he was playing against, if you see what I mean. And that's kind of, yeah, that's potentially kind of made me a little less kind of, how can I say, I'm happy to wait to see on him. But whilst he does have 2 nice fixtures up next in Newcastle, I want to say, and
Newcastle and Leeds, yeah.
And then Everton, Southampton after Liverpool. I mean, they're pretty decent, but I mean, until we get to game week 16, really, I think it is. Yeah, game week 16, he's got a nice run till 23. I'd like to see a bit more of him because at the moment he feels quite patchy. I don't know if you feel the same about him, Lewis.
I think his previous form is obviously questionable when like you see him at his points and then your initial reaction is, oh, he looks great. I think his next 2 fixtures are really good. I mean that I mean you can't get better at the moment because Leeds and Newcastle are posting some of the worst defensive stats in the league.
Yeah.
So as a pen, I suppose you're booking in a transfer with Salah, aren't you? You're booking one in and out.
Yeah.
So you're basically given 2 transfers, which is not what you want to do, especially around the time of Chelsea fixture swing and Leeds' fixtures. So I even played with the Traore to Salah switch today for a little bit, and I calmed down a little bit and thought, right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we were all. I think most of FPL Twitter was stung by Wolves in some way this game week, so we're all feeling a little bit tender at the moment, which is what this deload stream is all about. You know, we come here to share our collective pain and de-stress and deload all of that off. And yeah, Wolves, my lord, what was that about? That was some serious, shocking play. I mean, I actually went in the shower in the first half, and I think I missed the first 25 minutes, half an hour. Come out, I was like, "What is this? What is going on here?"
Because there was 2 goals in 6 minutes, wasn't there?
And I missed both of them, so I just come out of the shower expecting to see Wolves with a clean sheet, potentially even a goal in the bag, and it was completely the opposite. And I was like, well, we all know who's probably scored these.
Yeah.
Straight to the old phone to check the notifications. Yeah. Oh, frustrating.
Just a little bit disappointing, isn't it? Because I think they played really well last week.
Yeah.
And I just think they didn't just come up short this week. It was like they sort of went into it too overconfident from the last win and thought, right, they just didn't seem like they were trying enough. And especially as a Traore owner, Jesus, it was stressful to watch. He was he must have put in about 1,000 crosses, but only got one to his teammates' head.
Sometimes I think it's worse owning players like that. Like sometimes, in a way, if they've just been rubbish all match, you're just kind of resigned to the fact that, I'm not getting anything from this guy this match. But when they're absolutely pinging in chances all over the place and they're not getting something, you're like, come on now, I just want something from all of this.
Exactly.
But yeah, moving on to the main man, Mo Salah. He was just fantastic, wasn't he, this game week? He just was brilliant, I thought. And goal and an assist for the vast majority of us who captained him this game week, 56.6% owned. I mean, I am toying with the idea at the moment of getting off of him next week in order to accommodate Lukaku. A little bit worried. Just potentially for the game week, and then wild carding out the other side, because obviously I would I'll explain all of this in my game week video that's coming up during the week, but
cool.
my thought process is having for Brentford, potentially sell for Man City, getting Lukaku with those funds, and then wildcard out the other side and get Salah back in, and then maybe move on Ronaldo. That's the kind of thought process.
Yeah,
there.
I did that with Son, didn't I?
Yes.
A couple of weeks back, and he got that jammy goal, and then Salah scored against Chelsea. But I think, to be honest, if I had the option and if I had a wild card, then I think that's something that I would definitely be looking at too, because I'm not too sure he's going to have too much luck at sea.
You know what it is that I really hate selling like premium players. Once I've got them, I really like to kind of just like, come on now, you're part of the family and you stay with me like till the end of the season. You're doing well. You're keeping me consistent points. It's all good here. Let's just all be friends and get each other points sort of vibe. But this season, I feel like I'm not going to get away with that because there's too many premium players. And unless I'm going to go for the all-out attack and squeeze in Ronaldo and Lukaku and Salah and Trent, and then kind of try and have a couple of cheaper players around it, basically what you were looking to do, Lewis, there on your wild card. Unless I'm going to do that, then I'm going to have to become more comfortable getting on and off of the likes of Salah, Ronaldo, Lukaku during parts of this season, because otherwise, you know, I'm just going to be holding on to players through tough fixtures just based on like them being players, like good players. And the problem is that they're all good players now and they're all kind of fixture proof players. So it is going to be tough hopping on and off, I think, this season, but you're going to have to try and, I think, potentially edge your bets a little bit with the fixtures on that one. So
for sure. I think we've got to treat the premiums sort of like normal assets where they're disposable. Because in the past they haven't been disposable. They've not been, ones that you can sort of sell and move on. But I think if you've got a plan to target fixtures, premiums, surely it's not too much overthinking there, is it? It's sort of the way to go. Well, in my opinion, it is anyway. Obviously, it's going to be tough to get rid of him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not looking forward to getting rid of Ronaldo for that stretch that Lukaku has. But at the same time, if I want Chelsea defence alongside Trent, for instance, there's no way I can afford Lukaku, Ronaldo, Salah, Trent, Rudiger, Diaz, if I want City defender, or Torres. Sometimes you just gotta hope that the players you're getting in for the money that you're not locking up in somebody like Lukaku or Ronaldo or Salah, I hope that that's kind of shared around. But yeah, I think if Salah goes for that Man City match, it's very unlikely that he won't come back, because he's probably, I think, one of the only players that I would happily leave in my team the whole season and not get rid of, regardless of fixtures. And that's weird. I think
I'd agree.
I think that's weird saying that, given the fact that we now have Lukaku and Ronaldo, who pretty much could do exactly the same. But I just think it's the years of having Mo Salah. It's really hard to sell him. And
for sure.
Yeah. But just on the other side of the coin, we have Mr. Odegaard. A bit of a shock goal there, and as an Arsenal fan, pretty happy and stunned. 1-0 to the Arsenal yet again. We'll take it. Great free kick. Didn't think I'd see that from Odegaard though. I have to admit, we usually only see that sort of vibe from Pepe. So nice to see Odegaard stepping up and getting that fantastic goal, and nice to see him amongst the kings of the game week. And then moving up front, we have Ivan Toney. Of course he was going to go big at some point. Of course he was. Touted him all preseason. I was like, this is the guy. He's like 6 million. Everyone needs to have him in his team. He's amazing. And then we were like, Arsenal blank, Crystal Palace blank, Aston Villa rejoice. Although I just sold him just before that. Brighton, and then finally pops off against Wolves. As I say, just couldn't have picked a worst game week to get a Wolves defender in. But fair play to Tony, and fair play to those who did keep Tony aside. I happen to know that Jules Breach wildcarded this week, and she actually kept Tony in on that wildcard alongside Ronaldo and Lukaku. So fair play to her for
Big
doing
week.
that. And yeah, he really could be one of those ones that we end up going back to. I think the next 4 are really tough for him. Liverpool, West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester could struggle a bit in those, but I really like the 10 to 12 little cluster that he has there. And then it gets a bit kind of patchy. Maybe you could look at him around 25 to 30 again, but
pictures aren't great, are they, in terms of long term?
He's never going to be a terrible third striker, put it that way, if you can afford it. And that's going to be the thing, isn't it? Whether you can afford to invest that 6.3 really in a third striker. With so many premiums at the moment, you're going to have to decide whether you go for somebody like the likes of Gray, Gallagher, Sarr, or Tony. And potentially, just if you're looking at those, there may be one with a much better run of fixtures. But who knows? Now that he's opened his account, you never know. He could continue to go nuts. Hey, Focus. Hope you're doing well, buddies. Back from the Suns football training. You had De Gea in your team, right, Focus? Just confirm that for me, because I think I remember that you did. Hey, John. Hope you're well. And then we move on to Kingy with his 10 points. Wow, get in there, Kingy. Hasn't been around for absolutely ages, and then he just comes on out with his old 2 assists there. Fantastic play for him. Again, I don't know how much we can read into this Watford side with it being Norwich. I mean, poor Norwich. They're just...
they've got to be the team to target at the moment, haven't they?
I mean, I bet Delia's in the stands at the moment, hiding her face in a pancake. It's not all... I don't think she's there going, let's be having you. It's more like, let's not be having you at the moment. It's not fun. It's not fun being in that position. I do feel for Norwich fans. So, like I say, I'm not sure how much of that was the whole Watford situation, or whether it was more just that it was up against Norwich. Okay then, Lewis, let's move on to your team for game week 4. Tell the people how you did, because I'm letting you have this because you weren't here last week, and I think you deserve this glory. So this was just off of the back of a wild card, right?
Yeah, I wish I was on that week, to be honest. So wild card week was sorry. So I had a really good week. Obviously, I didn't start off great. I think I started off. I think we discussed this before about me having Cinecast and stuff, and my rank sort of dropped because of him mainly, and a couple of other things. But I didn't sway too much from the template. But anyway, wildcard, it's 74 points. I think I went from 800k to 400k, so jumped to 400k in 1 week. Great, wasn't it? But yeah, so I think obviously Marcel, my little 4.5 pick, he came through with 13 points. Ronaldo 13, Salah captaincy 16. Just everyone sort of came in for me, I suppose, apart from Ben Rama and Traore. But it was a great week. 400,000 places increase.
So was it just the whole Ollie presser that put you off captaining Ronaldo that week? Because I just couldn't not get him in and captain him. I was like, I don't even care if he comes on for like 20 minutes against Newcastle. Could still see him going absolutely bonkers in that time. So I think in my head I was so set that if he was coming into my team, he was going to be captain regardless. And so I'm just interested to get your thoughts on why you didn't actually go for it.
My usual thought process is when I'm 50-50 and decided on a decision in terms of captaincy, I go for Salah. So when I'm 50-50, I look at stats and stuff, and if I'm still 50-50, I pick Salah. And to be honest, Salah's, I think he's only blanked once this season, and so I've had him for captain for all the others apart from one, which was Son. And I didn't trust Ronaldo starting. There was a bit of that as well. There was a bit of the fact that I didn't know he'd start. But yeah, when in doubt, pick Salah is my sort of motto. And I mean, he still did well. He still got 16 points, but obviously it wasn't as good as Ronaldo's 26. But yeah, that was my game week 4. Anyway, I suppose you want to talk about 5, aren't you?
Yeah. Just before I do, happy birthday for yesterday, John. Hope you had a lovely day. And yeah, so just move on to your game week 5 team there, Lewis. 56 points. If you want to talk us through it.
Yeah, so just 56 points. For me, that's pretty. It's a pretty awful week for me, and I know a lot of people would say that's quite average. But when you're thinking you're behind anyway, 56 is not what you want. A lot of sort of 50-50s. Obviously, Trent didn't start, which was an issue for I think most players.
Yep.
The other issue was I have Williams. He got 0 points. Shaw too. He's starting to grate on me a little now. Shaw. Yeah. I think it's just. I just think it's a clean sheet. So it's great that he keeps getting points and picking up these random points, but United do not look like they've got a clean sheet in them at the moment. And I think every time I watch their games, I think, well, they could have scored that. Either the opponent, I think they could have scored that. They could have scored that.
Agreed.
So it's not just the fact they're getting their clean sheets wiped out. It's the fact that they look like they could concede 2, or per game. And I think I'm looking at Shaw thinking, okay, Chelsea is solid even against the tough fixtures, and you've got players like Rudiger who, let's be honest, never score. He's scored. Thiago Silva's scored. Alonso's doing well. Even Christensen, the cheaper asset than Shaw, he's even returning now. So I don't want to go on a tangent too much, but yeah, the week was poor, and I think I dropped about 100k, so back down to 500 and something k, 580 or something like that. But yeah.
So are you planning to do any transfers this week, or as Nuclear Atom says, no Chelsea assets still from a Chelsea fan, at least have Christensen? Are you planning to roll a transfer so that you can try and get some Chelsea assets in ahead of that nice fixture swing?
So my team looks nice going into next week. I could go for it quickly. Can I go for it quickly? Is that all right?
Yeah, crack on. I won't be able to show it on screen, obviously, but yeah, you talk through what you.
So I mean, so far it's just to sort of reflect the fact that I don't need to use a transfer. So Sanchez in goal against Palace, I like that. Shaw against Villa. Villa are hit and miss at the moment, and Shaw's really getting clean sheets, but I'm okay with that.
You got to play it for the hope of an attacking threat, haven't you? Really?
Yeah, exactly. Trent against Brentford, surely guaranteed to play. Marcel against Southampton, who's a little bit poor last game out. A sneaky feeling he gets replaced by Aït-Nouri this week, which would not be good. Traore against Southampton needs to start showing owners something for me.
So 3 at the back, moving
3 at the back, sorry, 3-4-3. So Traore, Salah, obviously he's currently on Salah against Brentford, Jota against Brentford.
Oh, Jota. I mean, this guy is testing me now. I have a little rant about him in my video this week. I mean, I literally, so many chances, such good stats. I am really worried. There's a little bit of chat that Bobby could be back on the weekend. I mean, what does that mean for Jota,
It's not great, is it?
No, it's not great.
No, but Jota against Brentford, Benrahma against Leeds. I think Benrahma was another. I forgot to mention actually that this week he got 10 points.
Yes.
So did you have Benrahma?
I did. I buckled under the pressure that week where everyone was buying him. I left it until the very last second. I remember I was like, I'm not doing this. I remember you, we were in the group chat and everyone was like,
you tricked him. You tricked everyone. Didn't you?
And then literally I was like, I'm not doing it. But the final price rise, I think it was the very late, the Wednesday evening or the Thursday evening, I did get him in.
Yeah.
And to be honest, he's literally done nothing for me since I got him in pretty much the Twitter sphere anyway. So yes, that goal was very sweet on the weekend. Even if it was actually his goal or not. That's interesting conversational when it's
yeah, I think I think that was debatable, wasn't it? It was a huge deflection, but I think it was deserved I think it was deserved for the owners that have sort of been loyal to him since they picked him up a couple of weeks back. But yeah, Ben Rama against Leeds. I would love to have triple attack against Leeds at the moment. They're playing that sort of way at the back where they could ship God knows how many goals.
Yourself, like myself, held on to Antonio then. I did see you at Bamford though. So did you sell Calvert-Lewin to get Bamford in?
Yeah. So that was my move last week. It was just having two forwards out in 1 week didn't sit right. And I mean, I used Williams for Norwich, and obviously he returned 0 points. So I mean,
in game weeks like that though, you've got to give it a go. Otherwise, you're getting points off the bench, and Lord knows what you get. Like, you got to hope then that you get the right order and whatnot. Just give it a go, and I guess, in that particular situation.
Just that, it's just the midfield that are a little bit off it at the moment. Maybe it's having the right midfielders, but because Jota, Traore, obviously Benrahma previous to this week, they weren't doing well at all. And they weren't performing at all. Because I own all three, it's being a bit sort of real heavy reliant on the forward man and the back man. So just an example, how things quickly change is that last week I think I returned 40 points in my back line. So 40 points, and then this week I returned, was it 2? It was 6. It was 6 points. Ouch. So you're talking a 34-point difference from the back line. So
it's just mad, isn't it? That is FPL. Like, most weeks in my game week video, I feel like I'm just like, 1 week talk about defense, 1 week midfield, defense, midfield. It's like literally like they swap and change between each other, and it's just mad. But I'm feeling quite good to have Antonio coming back in, as you say, especially with that fixture. So I'm with you there, and I see that Ahmed has said in the chat that Jota's time is up with Bobby coming back. We have seen them play together, so I'm not massively convinced yet that he definitely loses his place. I mean, as in loses his place just because Bobby's back. I mean, I could imagine a rest because he's rested Mane and never rests Salah, or at least, I mean, it happens, but it's rare. So I could imagine if Bobby is up to speed fully that Jota could get rest, but I don't think that's him out now because Firmino's back, because they have played together before. So I don't think you need to just panic and just be like, okay, Bobby's potentially back. That's it. That's Jota done now. In fact, I think sometimes coming off the bench just suits Jota more. Like, I think so. He seems to just like that kind of coming on and be a bit more of a super sub. So it definitely don't need to rule him out yet. He is a wait and see. It will be quite interesting if I end up wildcarding for Game Week 7, whether or not I keep him, and whether most people who are doing that actually keep him. Maybe the lure of other players or cheaper players to afford another player somewhere else could become too strong. But if I can hold on to him, I think for me it's probably going to be a case of Greenwood versus Jota and long term. And that's going to be tough because I don't really know what's going to be the case for either of them just yet, which is why I've been trying to hold on to my wild card as long as possible. And you always rib me for it because you're like, you literally would still only have one player going out and still not wildcard.
Still not the wildcard, yeah.
And I think you cursed me for this game because the last game you were like, you still haven't wildcarded yet, even though and you were like, your team's full of injuries. So I've got no injuries, but now I literally got a team full of injuries, and I'm still trying to avoid wildcarding. So it's quite amusing. Yeah. Hey, you know what it is? It just, I think a lot of last year plays in my mind where I went way too early with the wild card. So I think this season I just wanted to give my team a chance to breathe. And so far, it hasn't gone below that 60 points mark for me. So, you know, I'm just trying my hardest to hold on to what I've got until it becomes a case where, you know, where I really feel the pull of the wild card and be like, right, now's the time.
Yeah.
Or where it becomes kind of mad difficult not to wild card because most of my team's missing, basically.
Just really, really, really annoying because obviously so many other platforms, you know, me and you play fantasy football platforms, and I think in all of the others got a really high rank, and then in the one, you know, the most important one to me is obviously FPL.
Yep.
Just not going so well.
It's always the way, buddy. The teams where nobody is watching you and the pressure isn't on for content creators. But I say it's always the way. I mean, obviously you have your big guns that will consistently, season in, season out, be able to pull it out of the bag. But for so many of us content creators, the pressure of being consistent in FPL when everyone is watching, when you have so many influences, when you chat to so many people about FPL and they give you your opinions and you give them your opinions, and it's just the potential to be swayed is the pool is so big for that it's really tough. Whereas I bet with like those other teams, you're just kind of doing your own thing and not even like thinking too much about it. You may ask the odd question here or there, but mostly you're just kind of going, boom, that's done.
Yeah,
you know.
I think what I just wanted to mention is that I think what I have done is stick to the template. It's just a couple of 50-50 decisions that haven't gone my way. So again, to note a few. It was the double defence at the start of the season with Simicast and Trent. I sort of wanted that space for Jota.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know how that's sort of ended up. The second one was obviously more of a recency thing. Was Traore or Salah? We discussed that on the stream, and I was a little bit confused as to which way to go. And obviously went Traore, and again, that's sort of not gone my way as well. I think eventually the decisions will go my way, and I think I'll start climbing eventually. But yeah, I'll just keep sticking to what I'm doing. And just try and get there, and basically have faith in how I react transfers to each and every game week, I suppose.
So is the plan to sell Ronaldo for Lukaku at the moment? Because I'm assuming it's either that or get rid of Salah in order to afford Lukaku for that game week swing, or are you not going with Lukaku?
No. So my plan originally was to roll this week and have 2 transfers next week, which was then to bring in Rudiger and Lukaku. But I've left myself open this week. Because if I fancy a transfer this week, I'd probably get Rudiger in next week, play Ronaldo against Everton, actually Southampton, and then the following week swap them out. But then I'm looking at that thinking maybe I'm too many transfers. So yeah, Ronaldo.
We can revisit that then next stream and see like how you're feeling once the next game week's over and done with. But yeah, I think that's probably a good stage to move on to our questions then in the chat, and I'll just bring my lovely flag team up so that I can go through any any discussions. If you're new to the channel, by the way, guys, then please do like and subscribe. Hopefully something cool will happen on screen if you do that. And yeah, do go check Lewis out as well on Twitter. And let's just quickly scroll down. Marcus says, thinking of doing Williams plus Jota to Rudiger or James plus Sarr or Gray for a -4 hit. What do you think on that one then, Lewis?
I'm not too keen. I'm not too keen on the hit, and I say that every week. I think you could probably make one transfer. I don't know. I just think avoid the hit. To be honest,
I think in my eyes there, I would leave the Chelsea defence another week. They have Man City next. Okay, Williams, he's not doing brilliant, but I guess it would depend on the rest of your defence as to whether you really need a defender. But you're potentially taking a bit of a risk with that Man City fixture. If you really wanted to, if you really hear Bobby's back and you get a strong feeling or a good suggestion that Jota could miss out for some reason, then I like the idea of Gray for the one transfer because he has Norwich up next, and I think that could be a great one. I mean, Salah is not a bad shout either. I like them both for a bit of a punt. Whether or not I'd be selling Jota, though, is the question. I guess it's whether you feel the Jota out and having Salah or Gray and Chelsea is going to suit you better long term. I would potentially roll the transfer and make those moves next week.
I think so too.
But, you may be tempted by something else then next week as well. But, and you may know a bit more about Jota too. But if you were, I wouldn't take the hit. I'd just go one of the transfers, and I would probably do the Jota out if you really, really want to make a transfer this week. But, it'll be one of those weeks that we decide to sell Jota is exactly the week that he'll go.
Oh, it'll be 5-0 if you've got a hat-trick, Jota hat-trick.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nucleus says Ronaldo should have had penalties twice. Twice, he says. Yeah, well, I'm not sure about the twice, but one of them potentially. Yeah. One of his blog, Charlie had Sa. He says, what a guy. Kieran, how much time do we give Jota until we hear news on Firmino? Okay, so hopefully we've covered that a little bit already because we have discussed him.
What is interesting, with Jota is his fixtures moving forward. They're a bit on off. And because Jota's form is off, it sort of pushes me to selling him. Not immediately, but I think in the near future, because he's got Brentford, then he plays City, then he plays Watford, then he plays United. So it's sort of on off fixtures.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of feeling in my head. If I were to go for the wildcard 7 or wildcard 8, then Jota, Greenwood could potentially be, on their ways out then, because even Greenwood's fixtures, Everton, Leicester, Liverpool, Tottenham, Man City, in that time, and whether he starts to potentially get dropped. I mean, we saw with Ronaldo in last week, he only got the assist as opposed to getting a return and a goal. So, that's kind of restricting his space as it is. And then if he's not returning anything, Ollie's going to be more tempted to rotate him as well. So potentially both of those could move out in that 7 or 8 wild card for me, but I'm just going to kind of, hold off a little bit on that. But yeah, I definitely agree with the Jota comment there. Okay, Blair says Alonso in as it looks like TT won't drop him, and finally, is it time to get rid of bloody Traore? So Alonso, just beastly. I mean, goal and assist, just looks scary in every single attack. We did discuss him a little bit at the start as to whether or not we think he may keep his place, Blair. But Traore, what are you thinking, Lewis? You've got him. What are you thinking? Are you stocking up on the baby oil to keep him, or how long are you giving him?
He's just a bit annoying, isn't he? I think what is important was to ask myself why I made the initial decision, and that was because of his long-term fixtures. So I think that sort of reflects the sort of system that I do things is try and aim for those fixtures. Okay, it doesn't always work. Form works sometimes better than fixtures, but I think once I'm sort of stuck in that way now, I like targeting fixtures, and I think it's a tough one with Traore because Jimenez doesn't look great, so his sort of
he still hasn't got his confidence back, has he? Bless him.
No, so what Traore is creating,
there's nobody
not necessarily get put away anyway. So it's sort of like, and then when he is creating Traore or trying to create, it's awful. His crosses are awful. I'm not saying that in sort of like a bitter way, but he genuinely put in.
He's not even on the second page, Traore, is he not? Wow, where is this guy? I just looked in the midfielders to bring up his stats.
Are you on points?
Third page. Wow. Behind Fred, Barnes, McNeil, Agazi. Gosh, you wouldn't think that watching him, would you? Every week it feels like he's falling.
well, from an owner's point of view, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks really active. He looks great on the ball. He can take on 10 players and still trip over himself or whack a ball 50 yards in the air. And he's so exciting to watch. But then you get more and more nervous as he gets further at the pitch because you're like, oh God, it's about to happen. And then does exactly what you think he's going to do, and that's sky it. But I think I'll stick. I'm going to stick with the long-term fixtures. He's got Southampton in Leeds next, so
I think at least give him those two, and then if he's done nothing by then I think you can seriously think about shifting him on, because then until Leeds, which is 4 game weeks. I mean, if you can stick it that long,
I usually do 3 strikes and you're out. So if you don't perform in 3 games that since you've been bought, then you're out.
I think if you could hold on to that Leeds match, which is just one more, then he has Everton after that. And I think if he's done literally nothing by then forget about it.
For sure.
But it just depends on how badly the rest of your team is doing, and I mean that in the terms of if the rest of your team's not pulling its weight, so that Traore is becoming an extra issue on top of everything else, then fair enough. Then you've got to think about moving him on. But if everyone is pulling their weight, so for instance, for myself, I've been kind of lucky that other players have pulled their weights when Benrahma and Rafinha haven't really done too much. But then I've managed to kind of, I guess muddle through until this week, it's paid me off, and both of them have returned. So in that case, I've been quite lucky. Yeah. That's kind of how you have to think about it. Whereas if the rest of my team was doing very badly and I had those two not doing very well, I'd be more tempted to shift them on. So
I think when you have a bad week, you look at the reasons why, and you look at Traore and think, that guy's, he blanked last week as well. Whereas these other players didn't blank. Okay, they blanked this week, but they've only blanked once and he's blanked twice, and you look at him as more of the issue. But I'm going to stick.
Okay.
I'm going to stick.
Cool. Okay. Cherie says crosses for Lukaku. Do you think James is the best?
Oh, that's a tough one, because in the Champions League game that I watched the other night, they were sort of, Aspilicueta and Reece James were sort of overlapping quite well. Now I think opponents look at Reece James and think, right, he's the crosser. He's going to get into that wide area and cross it. And we saw midweek that actually he acted as the dummy to get it back to Aspi, but then him to put in the balls. So there's a lot up in the air at the moment in the Chelsea back line. As much as everyone thinks that's a very safe back line, it isn't. Reece, obviously, we saw him get rotated. I'm sure he'll still play quite often. Alonso, again, not too sure how long he's got. Christensen, I think he could rotate in and out, because you sort of sacrifice either Thiago Silva or Christensen when Reece comes back in. Because Christensen played at right centre back, and usually that would be Aspi. He wouldn't be the wing back. But yeah, I mean, it's confusing. It's similar to the Man City rotation. You've just got to go for the most nailed players, and that is, in my opinion, Rudiger and Lukaku.
Fair enough. Nucleus says, Nim, are you still afraid to own any Arsenal assets? Yes, is the answer to that.
Can I just say, that we had a discussion about Ben White.
Yes, we did.
I made a mistake to get him in the wild card. I messed up. I fudged up there, but I had 2 clean sheets on the bounce. I mean,
I know. I mean, I am not a big advocate for our defence generally, to be honest. But I have to admit, in the last 2, we've looked loads more solid since Tomiyasu's been playing. So since he's come in, it just feels like he just is really dictating the play at the back, making sure we're sitting, solidly. I think he has been probably one that at the point he joined, I didn't really know that much about and didn't really think, well, he's going to add fantastic amount to our defence. But you know what? Since him and White have got going, I'm really liking that little partnership there, and it's making me a little more. The thing is with Ben White, I wouldn't have necessarily thought about getting him in, bar the fact that he's 4.5. That really, especially in a potential wild card, really helps you out. Great fixtures for the next, couple, okay, barring Tottenham up next. Because you just know, and Nuclear, when I say I'm scared to own Arsenal assets, I just know that Tottenham will end up beating us on the weekend, because it is just our luck that we'll get this fantastic run, Tottenham looking as bad as they are, that they'll somehow end up, getting a dodgy penalty for Kane or something like that. Yeah. So it just kind of feels almost inevitable in that fixture. But, we do have great fixtures, and I think I'm a little bit less scared now to go in on some of our assets. And those assets would be White, because he's 4.5. That definitely helps. I'd like to know that Tomiyasu's getting consistent starts. I don't see why he shouldn't be, based on what I've seen the last couple of matches. But
he's in form. He looks great, doesn't he?
Absolutely. So if he keeps that spot, then I would potentially consider him as a defensive asset. And then, whilst Ødegaard is doing really well at 5.5 million, it's more just because he's had the game time rather than the fact that he's actually scored anything. Yeah. I still prefer Saka for his, for his potential attacking threat, and even Emile Smith-Rowe. For those that can, hold their nerve on him, then, I think it's just his game time. It's a little bit iffy. I think it's just it, Nuclear, if I'm completely honest with you, is that we are a team in transition. And at the moment, whilst we're a team in transition, it's very, very hard for me to say to you, get this player, they're nailed, you're going to get X amount of points from them. I just can't do that, because I genuinely don't know what team Arteta is going to play week in, week out. Of course, Aubameyang seems pretty nailed now in the last two matches. Did get a goal in the last match, struggled against Burnley.
Yeah, he did struggle a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. It's just the not knowing that makes me still be a little bit hesitant on us, to be honest. I want to know that White and Tomiyasku are nailed down. And once we know that, then I'd say, yes, go ahead and invest in our defence. And until we can see consistently who's performing in attack, whether we've got Ødegaard playing 1 week, Pepe 1 week, it's still a bit all over the place at the moment. I just, go cheap and have a punt if you like, but that's what it would be. It's not definitely get these players. They got great fixtures and they're going to run into form. I mean, look at what's happened with Wolves, for instance. So just bear that in mind when you think about Arsenal. Okay. Target Watford for their home fixture versus Newcastle. You won't be sorry, says Blair.
Yeah, I mean, they are displaying some of the worst defensive stats in the league. Newcastle, I think Leeds are too. So
yeah,
I do like that too. I do like the 2 weeks the 2 game weeks that Watford do have.
Yeah.
My only concern is that Watford have played poor teams before this week and didn't do very well.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that sort of.
They just feel so patchy to me. That's my concern. It just feels like 1 week they're going to pop off and then another week they're going to, and you could be really lucky. You could get on them now for these 2 matches. They're really good matches and you could get something out of them. On the other hand, you may get nothing. That's the thing that worries me slightly with them. But then, they're cheap assets. You can get on and off of them. It very much depends on what your plan is around them. Like, for instance, if you're planning a wildcard game week 7, it's not so terrible then, is it? Maybe to take a punt for the next 2 game weeks on somebody. So,
Yeah.
Breno asks, Mings or Cash? I know that I have better options, but want to know what of these 2 specific players do you all prefer? Pick for future game weeks, not this one.
I don't really. I personally never usually go for centre backs. I would usually go for left backs, right backs, the ones that like to shoot with the foot, and not the heads from set pieces.
Yeah.
Mings is more of a set piece score from a corner, isn't he? With his head, and Cash, obviously, like we saw today. He's enjoying getting forward at the moment, and the fixtures actually do get a little bit better in a few game weeks, actually.
Yeah, that's probably what Breno is. Yeah, from 8 onwards.
Yeah, so
in fact, from 8 onwards, them some nice fixtures. Wolves,
they really
Arsenal,
are, yeah.
West Ham, Southampton, Brighton, Crystal Palace. I mean, they could be tougher than they look on paper, but
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, I think Cash. If I'm going to choose one out of the 2, he really impressed me on the weekend. So
yeah, me too.
Chris, hey guys, question for you on Q&A. When is a player in form and when are they merely a bandwagon, i.e. Damari Gray? Ooh, interesting. I think like Ben Rama was a classic bandwagon. So he did like incredibly well for 2 game weeks and then fell off of a cliff. So he was like a classic bandwagon, I think. And then I think anything over 3 weeks in a row of consistent points, then it's in form.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, 3 to 4 weeks of consistent form. So Greenwood, for instance, has returned now every game week for the last 4 game weeks, apart from against West Ham. So he's an in-form player. He's not a bandwagon player. Ben Rama, I think for me, a bandwagon is when you don't expect a performance from a particular player. They come out of nowhere. Salah, for instance, he bang for a week or 2 and then just disappear again then for several weeks. A in-form player is somebody that will get a goal 1 week, maybe not do something the next week, but then get 2 goals the next week or an assist the next week. It just a consistent trickle of points for me is an in-form player. A classic bandwagon player for me is Wilson. He'll, pop off for a week or 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky, and then disappear for 6 weeks and then come back again and pop off. So that's kind of more of a bandwagon for me. Do you agree with that, Liz, or would you?
No, I think so. I think you're right. I think bandwagon is something that people hate, isn't it? Because they look good, or they performed in. Because obviously Ben Rama performed in pre-season, so we then created as a community this sort of bandwagon behind him. And to be fair, he really performed. And I was one of those that said on my own part, and I think potentially with you, is that I'm not jumping on this bandwagon. Because I think it's a bandwagon and it's going to just fall off a cliff. And obviously I was very wrong for the first 2 weeks, and then decided, okay, I'm going to bring him in now, blank for 2 weeks in a row. So yeah, it's sort of. I think what's important is that when a player is returning 2, 3, 4 times out of 4 or 5, 4 or 5 games, I think that's not a bandwagon. I think that's just a really good inform asset that we need to probably bring in.
Agreed.
Which is what Ben Rama, I think, was after the 2 weeks. I think a lot of people had good reason to bring him in if it was just 1 game. Okay, but yeah, we'll see what he does against Leeds next game, because I imagine he'll do pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we kind of answered the Jota question, and Kieran says, outside captain Antonio versus Leeds, anyone?
Yeah, I think captaincy is going to be huge this week, isn't it? I think there's 3 for me, and I could go either way. Salah, Ronaldo, and Antonio.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to have the balls to go with Antonio, if I'm honest. I'd like to, but I don't think I will. It'll likely be Ronaldo or Salah for me, just at this stage. Like, we're not even, a quarter of a way through yet. I'm going to stick with the percentage captains as much as I can for the moment. But if you're feeling a particular pull for Antonio, I don't think it's a terrible shout. It's just being brave enough to actually do it, isn't it? Okay, I think that Lewis has kind of answered your question there, Nuclear, with the Alonso play most games, even with Chilwell coming back soon. Lewis, were you too worried about the fixture to bring in Chelsea assets, even though they didn't concede a goal from open play? So I think fixtures.
I think I've already mentioned this. The game plan I have personally is to attack fixtures. Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes it does. And I think in the Chelsea case, it hasn't quite worked out, and we've actually been more solid than I thought we would be. So even I'm surprised as a Chelsea fan how good we've been defensively.
Yeah. You can't complain at all. Chris says, Lewis, play some more Frank Sinatra my way. Oh yeah, what's that about then?
Probably talking too much about my own teams, Nim.
Okay, Nuka says, Nim, do you think Arsenal score against Spurs since they lost 3-0 in the two London derbies in a row and it's at the Emirates? I could see us getting a goal. I just don't think we'll win it.
I think you will. I think you'll win that one.
You think we'll win?
I think so.
I think it's just the pessimism in me with Arsenal. It's that I think I still need some convincing. It's been a long time of hurt as an Arsenal fan, and I try not to be one of these Nelly negatives with us and Arteta out and all of this sort of stuff. I'm really trying not to be one of those fans, but to remain positive is quite difficult when you kind of get built up and you really feel like this is the time we're going to kind of pull it back, we're going to have a great run now, yada yada yada, and then it kind of doesn't happen. It feels like there's been a lot of those moments in the last few seasons, so it is, I think, until we actually see that there's a consistent improvement, it's going to be really hard not to feel kind of massively positive. But I'd like to think we will win it. It's always a really tough fixture for me because my daddy, granddad and my godfather were all Spurs fans, and I lost all of them in a very short space of time. So, and I found out about my dad's cancer during an Arsenal Spurs fixture. So it's always a poignant match for me anyway. So I never kind of think of it as a we win, they win sort of thing. I just try and enjoy the moment for what it is, and if we come out with a win, then then great. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Over game week 6 and 7, I plan on going Reguilon to Alonso and Jota to Gray. Question is, double up on Chelsea defence too much? Amaded, I think that's right. Ami for short. I hope he's okay with me saying that. Or Amid for short. I don't think doubling up on Chelsea defence is too much. Actually, I've got triple Chelsea defence in Sky, although Mendy was one of them, unfortunately, on the weekend. But I did have Christensen and Rudiger, so, not terrible. I don't think it's a terrible shout, because then I think you can get off of one should they start being rotated. I don't know if you feel the same there, Lewis.
Yeah, I think if I was to go double defence, I'd go for one nailed and one risky. So probably Rudiger and Reece James. If I did triple up on Chelsea, that's what it would be, because I don't see Mount Havertz performing very well at all. Mount was dragged off at half time for tactical change.
Yeah, such a disappointment. I had such high hopes for Mount this season. What about your thoughts on Kovacic? He's been quietly just ticking away at 5-1 there.
And I just want to talk about this for a little bit.
Yeah.
For a minute, because he is someone that I also thought about. Now, a lot of people didn't support Chelsea would know that would think that was a bad move because he's a holding midfielder and he gets yellows quite a lot and stuff. But if you notice it in our matches, he is very attacking. He can make very flary runs and become attacking. He loves to shoot. He's also, I think, noticed that players like Mount and Havertz aren't performing. So I think he's bombing on forward. I would go as far to say that he would be an okay punt.
Yeah.
And
I've
again,
actually been seriously in a couple of wildcard drafts that I've made ahead of game.
Oh no, and I'm being fully serious. I think I'm glad you've actually brought this up, Lynn, because Kovacic was someone that's probably ridiculed in the community for casuals bringing him in.
Yeah.
But when you actually watch him and watch the games, Chelsea, I think what Chelsea do is attack as a team. Every part of that team attacks. Every part. Rudiger will have a shot. Thiago Silva will have a shot. Kovacic had a shot. Kante scored the other day. Our whole team is having shots.
Yeah.
So if you want a player that's attacking and looking to get forward and has confidence and is cheap, then Kovacic is.
Why did he only play 45 minutes against Liverpool? Was that tactical, or was that because was there red card there? Wasn't there? Was he taken off because of the red card?
I can't remember too well, but I think that was a tactical change as well.
Okay.
He does.
Because otherwise, he seems fairly like in the other 5, 90, 70, 90, 90. I mean, it's not bad really.
He's in great form.
Yeah,
he is. He is in great form, and my only concern is that Kante is actually, that Kante Jorginho partnership is more for the
true, but Kante came on against Tottenham and Kostic still stayed on. So
yeah, I did. I think that was because we were just
coasting.
sort of we were coasting and we were sort of experimenting a little bit. And I think, but yeah, in terms of if you ask me if Kostic is a serious option, he's not someone that I would rely on, but he's definitely someone that I would punt on.
Yeah.
So I mean
he's what?
He's 5.5, is he, or 6?
Yeah, and only 4 points off of Greenwood, Fernandes, and Pogba at this moment in time.
If you were unsure,
at 5.1 million, I mean,
yeah. If you were unsure in who to triple up on, I would personally go for. If you were really unsure, obviously Lukaku and Rudiger are no-brainers for the Chelsea run. If you were looking for a punt and weren't keen on Reece James, also looking for a midfielder who's cheap, Kovacic is someone who, he might not play a game, but when he does, he's got a good chance of.
I'm glad you've said that, because I've been seriously considering him the last couple of weeks. So
a lot of people will ridicule that, by the way.
I'm used to people thinking I'm bat shizzle anyway, so it's all good in my humble opinion.
Yeah, but
but if it works out, happy days.
And like I said, only two of those three. Only two of those three played. Jorginho, Kante, Kovacic, and currently Kovacic is in form defensively and defensively.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going to miss a game, but he could well get you a haul.
Space Monkey says, plan on selling Jota next week. Is it worthwhile going for a Chelsea midfielder? I think we may have just covered it in that question. Like at the moment with Mount not performing and Havertz not performing, it's really difficult really to see where you put that cash unless you do downgrade and take a punt on Kovacic there.
Yeah.
Okay. Nuclearism says doesn't like baby oil. If I do get Salah, whom should I replace him for? Sam asks, Greenwood or Jota? I don't like selling either of them this week. I'll just go out there and say that. I don't think it's time yet to sell one of them for Salah, personally. That's not to say I don't think Salah will do better this week, but I just think we need more information on Jota and Greenwood. So, yeah, I think they still have great fixtures this week, Jota and Greenwood. After that, Greenwood's fixtures start to get a little bit tougher, Everton, Leicester, Liverpool, Tottenham, then maybe you could, if you still like the look of Salah, maybe you could move then. And maybe we'll have a bit more information. I mean, Jota has Man City after that. So next week feels like the week to really think about moving one of those two on. And hopefully you'll have more information on both of them by then. That's me personally. What do you think, Lewis?
I think so. I have to agree, to be honest. And I know I was considering the Traore to Salah, but I just think looking back a little bit, I think you have to look at Salah's performance previous to that, and they weren't great. Okay, he looked great. He looked lively, but he wasn't returning points, and he also played Norwich. Let's be honest, they're terrible, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're going to take that punt on Salah, it'll have to be a gut feel on who you sell for him. That's basically how I feel on that one. Okay. Nuclear says Traore needs some extra virgin olive oil to give him that extra help of finishing his chances. Okay. Okay. So I think that's everybody. Hopefully we've got Sam's question. And okay, just do one more then. Apologies to everyone. He says, hi, I'm NutriChannel. I'm from Mauritius, so welcome. Hi. I'm hoping I'm saying your name correctly, Conhai or Conhai. If not, I'm going to shorten it to Con. Hopefully that's okay. I unfortunately took a hit for Mount as replacement for injured son. He blanked twice. Should I move him away? Thanks, he asks.
It's a tough one because
that is a tough one.
Because I wouldn't buy him. I wouldn't bring him in.
Yeah.
But if I had him
with those fixtures on the way, it would be tough to sell.
It is really tough because I would probably want to look at, because we've got some tough games next. We've got Man City, and we've got Juventus. So but then we hit that nice run of fixtures. So I mean, I'm not too sure how well he's going to do against Man City. You can say that about any asset in the game, but after that, maybe give him one or two matches, and then if he doesn't return or he's not getting played as much, or because at the moment he looks short of confidence, he doesn't look at it. But then again, you know, we've been playing some tough fixtures lately. He's probably knackered. He obviously played for England and on the break as well, so. True. Played in the Euros. He's had a lot of game time. He's heavily relied on. Maybe he's just a little bit burnt out, and I think maybe he needed the 45-minute break last match. So I would just keep an eye on Mount. I'm not going to write him off just yet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Fair. I think so as well. Like potentially give him a few more chances before shifting him on. Maybe see how he does in that kind of game week 7, game week 8, and then make a decision. You know, if again team specific. Just want to add that, very team specific. If you're finding the rest of your team is struggling and you really need to move Mount on in order to get some more points from somewhere, then I am absolutely not against that. But if he's one of the few that's underperforming in your team, then I think try and, especially this early on in the season, try and allow him some time if you can. Patience is potentially key at the moment. Okay, guys, I'm so sorry we didn't get through all of your questions. There was quite a lot this week. Thank you. I do see some new names in the chat, so thank you to all who have joined us. Please do like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the content. Myself and Lewis will hopefully be back next Monday for you guys to answer some more Q&As. I will be back on this channel during the week with my Game Week team selection video, which should be out Wednesday, I would have thought. And I'll also be joined by Fergie. He's back after his little holiday stint this week, and our 5 things should be out on Thursday. So any questions that you've got here, I'll try and cover some of those things in the 5 things FPL Fergie video for you guys. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm hoping to do more bits and pieces on the channel, so apologies that, you know, didn't get around to it this particular time, but hopefully we'll get around to it next game week. Where can they find you, Lewis, if they want to give you a follow, buddy?
myself sometimes. And then, it's hold on 1 second. It's okay. So my username is at FPL Reaction. And my name is at FPL Reactions. That's why I get a little bit confused. But,
on Twitter,
that's it on Twitter, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, then. So it's goodbye from myself and goodbye from Lewis.
Yeah, again, thanks for your questions. Obviously, I talk a bit too much and more so that's probably why we don't get through all the questions. But yeah,
I recorded a video earlier, so you probably helped save my voice a little bit today, so appreciate it.
Right.
Great, and hope everyone has a great week, and I will see you in a couple of days with my Game Week team selection. Bye, guys.
Yeah, see you later, guys. Cheers.